Sometimes, everything falls apart not with a crash, but in absolute silence, amid glowing kitchen displays, icy compresses, and familiar routines. He wasn't expecting betrayal. It didn't look like the movies. No hallway kisses, no secret messages. It came in the form of a dress that screamed too loudly, and a look that no longer held a we. Just a regular office party, a bit of wine, strangers whispering, and suddenly, the world begins to crack. One wrong laugh, one unfamiliar voice behind a closed door, one moment where everything that once felt solid shatters into pieces. And then comes the choice: swallow it, forgive, or smash to bloody pieces everything that suffocates you. He chose the latter. No tears, no pretty words, just the cold, the weight of a bottle in his hand, and the sharp clarity: there's no way back. No one expected how that night would unfold, but no one will forget how it ended. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Please tell me which city and country you watch this video from. Now, let's get started. There are times when just staying afloat feels like all you can manage. Life doesn't stop piling on, and somewhere along the way, you slip into autopilot. You take one deep breath and dive back into the chaos, only to realize later you forgot to breathe again. People say that's just life now, but if that's really the case, what are we even doing? Sure, having it all sounds appealing, but if the price is your own existence, is it still worth chasing? The microwave, with its relentless flashing, 11 over and over, was enough to unravel me. My head was throbbing, which didn't help. You'd think that more than 20 years in Florida would have dulled my frustration with the constant blackouts. It hadn't. For ages, I'd been meaning to buy one of those whole house backup systems, but it never seemed urgent. And now, still didn't. That evening, I stepped into the kitchen and left the ceiling light off intentionally. The glow from the LED displays on the appliances cast enough of a halo to read a book. The room sat in a muted hush, and I liked it that way. Dim, silent, just me. I shifted on one of the bar stools, my lower back protesting, and silently blamed Caroline for talking me into them. They were slightly too tall, maybe by 10 centimeters, and the seats were rigid when they should have been plush. Worse still, they were almost 40% pricier than the ones I'd picked. But I let her win that one, thinking they'd only see occasional use, maybe breakfast on a slow weekend morning. I never expected to be anchored to one for over 2 hours. Yet there I sat. And the night? It was brutal. Actually, it wasn't even night anymore. The clock blinked 2:15 a.m. Between age and distance running, ice packs had become as routine for me as socks. After knocking out 20 to 25 kilometers, I'd dig into the freezer, strap the ice to my tendons, wedge more under the arches of my feet, and wait. I hated the chill, but I hated pain more. I'd never even heard of plantar fasciitis until it hit me. Then it stayed. For months. That's when I learned how cruel the wrong shoes and poor recovery could be. 10 minutes of running, 10 minutes of icing. The first few minutes of each run were torture, but once the pain dulled, I could manage. Ice became a ritual, a way to undo the day's damage. In winter, I'd sometimes trade the ice packs for the pool, unheated, waist deep, shoes off. It offered the same numb relief, only colder. Florida winters can still bite, but the sting never climbed higher than my knees. Tonight, though, the cold wasn't on my legs. It was wrapped around my face and hands. I've always loved the stretch from Thanksgiving to New Year's. I'd hoard vacation days just to soak it in. The lights, the calm, even the annoying stuff like the yearly office holiday party. Barely tolerable, but tolerable. As a manager, I was expected to show up, eat, mingle, act like I was having fun, and then quietly disappear. They'd open the bar for an hour and a half, and most people treated it like a sprint to blackout. I'd park myself at the edge, nursing a beer and doing damage control. It wasn't easy. Over the years, I'd had to call the cops more than once. Drunk drivers, fights, you name it. Some parties felt more like war zones than celebrations. Caroline had always tagged along, playing the part of the dutiful wife, until last December. She said she had a headache, though we both knew better. I didn't push, especially after she told me I didn't need to attend her party either. I remember thinking, finally, a break. I was wrong. This year, I asked her if she planned to come with me again. She started dodging days before I even asked. By the time I brought it up, her answer was already written on her face. "Go without me," she said. "And if you're not home too late, maybe we'll have a little celebration of our own." With that kind of offer on the table, I had no intention of staying out late. But somehow, I lingered longer than planned. Still, I got home around 10:30, and she kept her word. We had our own private gathering. I waited for her to bring up her party, but she barely mentioned it. Not that I was itching for the details. I'd already decided I wouldn't be attending. I even had a plan to use her own line on her. That was, until I saw the dress. She had bought it just for her event. Now, I know holiday outfits tend to be bold, sparkly, short, loud, but this one went way beyond that. It wasn't just festive, it was brazen. I stared and asked, "You're not seriously wearing that out Saturday night, are you?" She lifted an eyebrow. "What's wrong with it? I think I look fantastic." "Babe," I said, treading carefully, "that dress says a lot, and what it says is, I'm available right now. Don't you have something subtler?" Her face changed. "So, you think I can't pull this off? That it's too sexy, too young for someone like me?" I paused, weighing my words like landmines. "In that dress, Caroline, you'd look like a low-rent drifter." Her eyes narrowed. "A drifter?" "I'm not saying you don't look good," I said, "but a dress like that, without me beside you, it's just a lot." She didn't take it well. I knew she wouldn't. And just like that, despite it being mid-December, the temperature between us dropped fast. Still, I wasn't about to let it wreck the season for me. The following Saturday crept in, bringing with it Caroline's much-anticipated work function. I watched quietly as she readied herself, each brushstroke and last-minute tweak etched into my memory. When she finally stepped out, a vision in heels and red lipstick, she caught me watching, and spotted my freshly pressed suit. She paused, eyebrow raised. "And you're going where exactly?" "Heading to the event," I said. "With you." "I thought you weren't coming this year," she replied, folding her arms across her chest. "And let you walk in there looking like that solo? Not happening." Her gaze hardened. "So you don't trust me in this outfit?" "I don't have any trust left to give," I replied, voice flat. Her eyes turned icy. "Fine, but don't expect me to hold your hand the whole night." She spun back toward the mirror to finish up. When she finally stepped away, she looked even more flawless, enough to make me suggest, half joking but mostly serious, that we skip the whole thing. "How about we ditch the party?" I said. "Grab dinner somewhere quiet and head home after. I've got better ways to spend the night with you." She didn't laugh, didn't suggest an alternative. We pulled up to the Hilton, the usual spot for these kinds of corporate spectacles. Inside, clusters of employees circled around cocktail tables, while outsiders like me hovered around the edges, largely unnoticed. Caroline was swallowed by a crowd of her colleagues almost instantly, probably the same ones she always mentioned, and I spent the next hour making small talk with whoever looked equally out of place. Most of the guys I met had already hit the open bar pretty hard and were deep into slurred jokes and half-forgotten stories. I spoke with a few partners and spouses too. Several knew Caroline, and nearly all had some opinion about her manager, Declan. Apparently, his reputation preceded him. Some labeled him barely tolerable, others said he was human waste with a corner office. Smug, manipulative, predatory, the exact adjectives varied, but the general mood was unanimous. And these weren't just drunk rants. This was the sober crowd speaking plainly. The food didn't exactly redeem the evening. For all the money they seemed to be throwing around, I expected something better. Instead, they served up bland steak, suspiciously marinated chicken, and charred fish that tasted like it had been nuked in a fast food microwave. Honestly, I've had tastier shrimp baskets at gas stations. It was obvious the real budget had gone to the alcohol, which flowed freely until midnight, or until someone passed out, whichever came first. I nursed a couple cocktails early on, then wandered with a half glass of red wine in hand, mostly for show. Somewhere along the way, a tall man in an overpriced suit cornered me. "Having a good time?" he asked, flashing the kind of corporate smile that had been rehearsed in a mirror. "Doing my best," I replied. "You're Caroline's husband, right?" "She's doing great. Declan's taken her under his wing. There's talk of a promotion. Team lead, maybe. You must be proud." He grinned and moved on before I could respond. I managed a polite, "Thanks," but the compliment sat wrong. Where was she? I scanned the room. No sign of Caroline. I drained the rest of my wine and went searching. The event spanned the main ballroom and 2 side suites. I checked the hallway, glanced through doors. Still nothing. Eventually, I stepped into one of the hotel suites, packed shoulder to shoulder with buzzed employees. Judging by the glassy eyes and the laughter pitched just a little too loud, not many would be driving home sober. I was turning to leave when I stopped near the bathroom and leaned casually against the wall. That's when I caught her voice. "Cut it out. Not tonight. Samuel's here," she said, her tone tight with urgency. "I can't believe you dragged that idiot with you." A man, unmistakably Declan, responded. "I reserved a room for us. You told me he wasn't coming." "I didn't expect it," she snapped. "He saw the dress you bought and insisted." "What? He's your watchdog now?" Declan chuckled. "Please. If he ever protected you, that ended ages ago." He laughed again, a low, smug sound. And just like that, everything fell into place. Caroline was trading loyalty for leverage. Her climb up the ladder came with certain compromises, ones she'd rather not talk about. Then I heard more, something barely audible, something about getting me out of the picture. Thank God I was sober. I needed a clear head. There was an empty champagne bottle chilling nearby, tucked in a silver bucket. Didn't matter that it was drained. It had weight. Declan was younger, taller, stronger. Physically, the odds were against me. If I wanted a shot, I'd need to make it count. Caroline stepped out first, smoothing the straps of her dress like nothing had happened. She didn't even see me standing there. Then Declan followed. I moved to intercept him. "Declan," I said, "you know what you really are?" He glanced sideways, then smirked. Bad move. I shifted the bottle behind my back, fingers gripping the neck. If he'd reacted with anything but that smile, maybe things would have ended differently. But that grin? It said everything. "I've got your wife." "What now?" I said his name again, loud enough for Caroline to hear. She turned. Time slowed. Movies lie. Bottles don't shatter cleanly. Even empty, a champagne bottle hits hard. But it didn't break, and Declan didn't drop. He was stunned, though. I'm no fighter. Last time I threw a punch, I was 12 and lost badly. But this was different. He needed pain. I needed to give it to him. What followed was messy, loud, brutal. I landed enough punches to split my knuckles, and one desperate headbutt crunched his nose. By the time security or a few burly co-workers pulled us apart, Declan was a bleeding mess, and I was shaking with adrenaline. But I felt something else too. Relief. Maybe even satisfaction. It was hard to say who looked more wrecked when it ended, him or me. But if I had to choose, I'd say I took his crown, stomped on it, and kicked it straight to hell. Declan was coughing up blood and cursing like he'd lost his mind, while I just leaned back, smirking like I'd already won. That smug little grin of mine pushed him over the edge. The yelling escalated fast, threats fired like bullets, until someone finally got smart enough to tell me to leave. Caroline was sobbing in a corner, her mascara streaking down her cheeks like a ruined painting. "Don't come back," I told her, deadpan. "I don't care where you land. Just don't set foot in that house again." A pair of hotel security guards flanked me and walked me out into the cold night. My right eye was foggy with swelling, but I slid into the car anyway and limped my way home behind the wheel. I pulled into the garage, cut across the kitchen, and went straight to the fridge. 4 ice packs and a cold beer later, I finally sat down. I parked myself on the kitchen stool for what felt like an eternity, rotating ice packs on my knuckles, sipping that Corona, and bracing for the sound of a squad car rolling up. But nothing happened. No sirens, no knock. I figured they'd come tomorrow, maybe by Monday at the latest. I glanced down at my hands, swollen, aching, raw, and it hit me that this holiday was about to be a far cry from the ones before. Christmas was only days away, and true to form, I hadn't picked up a single present. Good thing I had the week off, and shopping for one is easy when you're shopping for yourself. I reached into my coat pocket, half hoping I still had the reason I swung at Declan in the first place. He tried pressing charges for assault, but once my attorney caught wind of the full story, a few strategic calls were made. Like magic, the charges disappeared. Turns out someone high up the corporate ladder didn't want this mess tied to their name. My lawyer made it clear, if they pushed it, the headlines would come, and no string of fairy lights could hide the truth. A scorned husband catching his wife mid-affair at her company's Christmas bash? That was headline gold. Sure, Declan was a tool, but he was their tool. Afterward, Caroline kept trying to reach me. Call after call, voicemail after voicemail. I ignored everyone. The boys spoke with her, but not once did they try to excuse what she'd done. Maybe I didn't completely screw up as a father. Friends and relatives tried to sprinkle a little holiday spirit around, but everything felt fake, like echoes in a house that used to be a home. I figured the legal stuff could wait until January. No point in spoiling what little peace my family had left. Meanwhile, over at her parents' place, Caroline's mom spotted a FedEx truck pulling up. The delivery guy hustled to the door. "Delivery for Caroline Martinez," he said. Her mother signed without thinking, then handed the small, gift-wrapped box to her daughter. "It's from Samuel." The package was compact, neatly wrapped. Caroline peeled off the paper, revealing a black velvet ring box. A flicker of hope sparked in her expression, until she opened it. The box slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. 2 bloodied teeth rolled across the tile, landing at her father's feet. He stared for a second, then calmly picked them up, tucked them into his pocket, and walked away while Caroline crumbled to pieces. The divorce papers arrived the day after Christmas, along with a letter. Caroline had been hoping, foolishly, that I might still be willing to talk, to listen, to forgive. But that moment never came. She tore the envelope open with shaking hands. Inside, a letter, typed and signed. "Dear Caroline, I hope you liked your Christmas gift. Let's be real. Declan would have never had the spine to give it to you himself. I'm glad I could help. At this point, your reasons don't matter. Maybe you had some. I just hope they were worth it. Let's make one thing clear. I didn't go after Declan that night to win you back. The second I saw what I saw, we were done. I didn't fight for you. I fought for me. Sure, I could have just walked away, filed for divorce, let Declan come out clean, but that didn't sit right with me. Someone had to hit him where it hurt. And I'll admit, he's tougher than I gave him credit for. Thought cracking that bottle across his skull would have dropped him cold. Part of me's glad it didn't. Felt good to see him flinch. They threw me out, yeah, but I made my point. And before I left, I spotted those 2 teeth on the floor. I made sure to grab them. I heard Declan lost his job. You just got knocked down a rung. Must have really wowed the top brass. Maybe one of them will take care of you now, the way Declan did. Maybe they'll give you a nickname too. The home wrecker has a certain charm, or maybe break room Barbie. Anyway, Just sign the divorce papers. Let's end this circus. You keep your junk, I'll keep mine. We'll sell the house. It's too much for me now anyway. Every room reeks of what we used to be. I've told the boys the truth. You cheated. I hated doing it, but they deserved honesty. You're still their mom. That's worth some respect. No more than that. I'd love to wish you happiness, but that'd be a lie. Honestly, I hope karma finds you fast and hits you harder than I ever could. When our mutual friends start asking questions, and they will, I'll tell them everything. Fill in the blanks if you want, assuming anyone still gives a damn. Your soon-to-be ex-husband. My lawyer got the signed documents on New Year's Eve. Just like that, I rang in the new year a free man. Word was, Caroline quit her job a few weeks later and vanished. I never asked where she went. Maybe one day the boys will fill me in. Some people still whisper that I acted too quickly, tossed 25 years out over one mistake, one fight. But they didn't see what I saw. They didn't feel what I felt. Whenever the topic came up, I'd meet the guy's gaze and coolly ask if he'd be open to lending me his wife for the weekend, just for a little physical release. The usual reaction was some variation of, "Are you out of your mind?" And I'd reply, "Well, you can take her back Monday. It'll only be the one time." That's usually when the gravity of the situation began to register with them, when they'd get a small taste of what it was like standing in my shoes. I floated that same offer past maybe 6 different friends. Only one actually said yes. The condition? His wife was 74, hard of hearing, and shuffled around with a walker. David grinned when he said it. I called him a bastard, but told him I'd think about it. Of course I wouldn't. Now, any time I read about a man who's chosen the cuckold's road, I find myself looking down at the worn skin on my knuckles. And honestly, no regrets. I'd walk the same path all over again if I had to. It just sucks that so few really understand what it means, what it costs, to live like that. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.